Welcome into Kitchen Talk Pickleball Edition. I'm your host, Caitlin Miller, and this week joining us is Dan McClellan. Dan, you completely transformed the courts in your area. I actually just saw you last week with James Ignatowicz. He was in town. I mean, it's so good to see you again, and tell me how you got into this.
Sure. Yeah. No, it's great to be with you. Thanks for including me here on your awesome podcast. And
Oh,
uh,
thank you.
you know, you hear Tom here and there that Nashville is lagging other cities around us in the sort of the pickleball community, and what you're doing with your podcast is just fantastic. And I tend to disagree when I hear that because I do think we're on a great growth move with our pickleball community, and your podcast is certainly a big boost for that. So yeah, to your question, with the courts at Westmead, we had to come up with a name last September or October when we were finishing our courts. And myself and a few other folks that live in the West Nashville community bought the tennis courts from the Westmead Swim and Tennis Club, and that was a couple years ago, and built it with the intention of building some tennis courts. And then as I got more into pickleball, and as some of our friends that are part of what we have here got into pickleball, I convinced them to let me take a gander last summer at resurfacing the courts, which were in some pretty horrible shape and needed some attention. We wanted to fix them up. The community wanted to fix them up, so I went about scraping the courts. I've only taken one trip away from town since last July, but came back from the
Wow.
beach, and myself and my sons started scraping the courts, and I looked into how much paint and sand and acrylic was going to cost, and that was not cheap either. So, and I'm not kind of a Mr. Fix-It person at all, so I was way over my skis on this one, but got the court scraped off by late September, and then watched a bunch of YouTube videos. Actually did call for some quotes on fixing the courts, but they kind of got sticker shock because capital, um, had some capital, and so just decided to do them myself. So in mid-October, right before the winter, we were able, over the course of 2 or 3 weeks, and keeping the blowing leaves away with the fall changing, we're able to complete the courts late October, and we opened October 22nd of last year.
Wow. Wow. And just, I mean, Dan, that was the first time I saw these courts for the first time last week. I was blown away. I literally texted all my friends. I was like, we need to host some sort of event and start playing out here because it looks amazing. But the fact that you were able to, obviously, you looked into quotes, like you said, to see if you could get some professional work in, but you were like, oh my gosh, no, we're going to try this ourselves because it was so expensive. You talked to me a little bit about what that process was like, but you haven't really done anything like this before. So, I mean, how did you figure it out? How many people did it take to do this?
Sure, yeah. So I talked to the paint supply stores near the Titan Stadium, and I knew what the cost was going to be. It was about $10,000 of acrylic paint and sand. We had to get 50-gallon drums that each weigh like 800 pounds each, and we were actually re-roofing our pavilion. If you've been to our facility, the pavilion needed to be re-roofed. And I talked to the guys that were re-roofing and asked if they knew how to squeegee paint. And they said no, but they'd learn. So between the four of us, we did 3 layers of acrylic. And so all in, we were like $18,000 to transform 2 tennis courts into 6 pickleball courts. We chose the sort of the Wimbledon green, if you will, because we felt like it meshed in well with the Westmead community, which, yeah. And so that's what those were the steps involved. Sorry, my earpiece is falling
I
out.
love that. Oh no, you're fine. And you have some photos to share with us. I want to see this transformation. If you could kind of talk us through what these courts, and you can even show us too what these courts used to look like and what they now look like.
Sure. Yeah. So for anyone that can see the video, here's the picture of what they looked like before. And this is a community that for the last 4 decades has a vibrant tennis community and a lot of history on these courts. And so it's been fun to bring them back. And so here's a picture of one of our recent open plays where you can see the after.
Wow.
And then, of course, we're starting to open play is very popular. Our Pickleball 101 clinics are very popular for sort of a fun social learning environment. We limit it to 8 people, 8 players, so that we can have focused learning. And then beyond open play and clinics, we also have different events. So this past weekend, we had our Shamrock Shuffle, and I kind of forgot to take
Oh,
pictures. But this is the group was like twice as big, but we forgot to take pictures until the end, and some people had already left. But we had the courts full and 2 different divisions, and gave prizes to the winners. So it's been so much fun. The Surgeon General loves pickleball, and I noticed in the last Pickleball magazine he was saying how great pickleball has been for like connectedness and health. And I've seen that with myself, and also with the more than I think we have 850 people now since late
wow.
October who have registered to play at Westmead. And I'd say of those 800 registrants, probably 600 have been on our courts.
Wow, that's crazy. And you said also since you guys opened in October, it's been all these courts have been open to most people, like pretty much on any days the weather is good, right?
Yeah, I wear a lot of hats. Thankfully, I have another pro certified pro, Emily, who's joined me as well, and then my wife has been invaluable. She's awesome. So yeah, I'm first and foremost a weatherman, because I got to look 3, 4, 5 days out, and if it's over 45 degrees and not too windy, preferably some sun, you're going to see an open play or a clinic or another event that we have. So
That's
yeah.
amazing. And what has it done? I mean, I know you said there's been more than 800 people that have registered. What has it really done for the communities surrounding these courts? Has it really brought a lot of people together?
It has, yeah. So mostly in and around the sort of West Nashville community. So we have folks from Sylvan Park, we have folks from the Nations, Charlotte Park, Bellevue, Forest Hills, Belmead, and obviously Hillwood and Westmead. I think our neighbors seem to really value what we've done with the courts. They were not happy with they wanted to see something um, to be improved with the courts. And the swim club, who are our neighbors, have been wonderful. So yeah, it's definitely cultivated community.
That's amazing. And you even had, I mean, one of the best players in the world, James Ignatowicz, was just there. I mean, it seems like you guys are also being able to, bring in some pros and host a lot of cool events too.
Absolutely, yeah. And it's the winter. I guess if you draw up a business plan to open up a outdoor pickleball community, and I like to call ours a pickleball park, because if you visited it, and it's on Davidson Drive between like Cabo Ray and where the Walmart is off Charlotte Pike, and then all the way over to Belmead Plantation. It's a beautiful green space of 3 acres, and so particularly now that the spring is popping, it's just beautiful, a unique spot. And oh shoot, I forgot what you had asked on that question. Uh,
No, yeah, just bringing the community together and hosting the big events now too. It seems like
yeah,
you're really able to do that, and people are taking advantage of that green space. Even the pavilion I loved with like the little picnic tables, so people could hang out too.
right, right. Yeah, and I think as far as events, we're gonna our plan is we actually send a newsletter out about once a week. We don't pepper people too much with over information, but we're actually going to be hopefully starting some leagues in early April that'll go for 6 weeks. Everybody in the pickleball community knows about duper ratings, so we'll have one league that's for duper up to 3.75, and then another one for duper 3.75 and above. So I think that's a nice split point, and hopefully we can have some team leagues. And we also design we created the courts to make sure they're regulation size. I think 10 feet on one side, more than 5 feet in the back. So conceivably, we could have maybe a sort of an authorized tournament there. At least the 6 courts are regulation size. So that's good.
I love that. I would love to see that. I know that's the one thing I feel like I always have to travel for these tournaments. So it'd be nice to have some more local ones right in our backyard. I feel like Nashville needs that.
Yep. Hopefully people can, and we're close enough to downtown. We've had people find out about us. They're in downtown on Broadway for a convention, and they Uber out to the courts at Westmead, which is great. The Uber drop-off spot's kind of on the other side of the property, so hopefully, but people find their way to the courts and have a great time. We've had people from Canada and had
Oh,
someone from Portland, Oregon last week. So
that's
pickleball
awesome.
brings people together.
It does. And you really meet people from all over. That's like how I've met some of my really close friends here in Nashville. So it's good to just see it expanding and see, I mean, thanks to places like what you're doing in Westmead, it's like those are the places that create these types of communities that people are looking for, especially since we're in such a transient area where people are moving in from wherever.
Agreed, for sure.
And Dan, you're also a certified pro. Is this something that you've received, like your certification since opening these courts, or did you have your certification prior to that?
Yeah, it was actually April of last year when I did my PPR is my certification, professional pickleball registry, and so there's really two coach pro certifications out there, and I had seen some of the other pros in Nashville and what their certification was, and so I went with PPR and did my online training, and then did the on the court training in Louisville from a fantastic instructor there, and um, I I had a hunch that I could convince my other friends who are part of this property to let me take a gander at redoing the courts. So did that in April, and then we redid the courts late July and opened in late October.
And
And
what has it been like? Well, or you can keep
I was
going.
just going to say I think I'm supposed to recertify. I need to renew my certification in April, so that's a good reminder
I know that's probably coming up for me as well. And I'm an instructor myself. I mean, isn't it so fun to just like introduce the sport for people for the first time, or even like, they'll come in and say, I want to work on my third shot drop, and just, seeing that like, I got it finally moment and introducing the sport to so many different people. Isn't it just so rewarding?
I love it. I love it. Yeah, and it's I mean, and I feel like I've probably taught maybe 100 people in the last 2 months that are in our Pickleball 101 beginner clinics, and it's fun to see them start to elevate their game and learn the value of the softer game, the value of the dink and the third shot drop, and then even delve into deeper elements of do a third shot drive for a fifth shot drop. It's there's a lot, and having played racket sports for since I was 5 years old, I feel like there's a variety in pickleball that and I can best compare it to tennis and a little racquetball, but I feel like there's just a variety there that just continues to make the game sort of all consuming and invigorating.
Yes. And so you come, I know, from a racket sport background. You played tennis, your dad played at Vanderbilt. So when do you still play tennis, or when did you kind of make that transition over to pickleball?
I do. I mean, I'm in my mid 50s. I love tennis singles, but the joints just the recovery times too much. And so I still play tennis. Play with a group of guys on, one or two nights a week. Yeah, in town, play at Hillwood and Whitworth. So still love tennis, but most of my court time, a large majority of my court time is pickleball these days. And
Do you
I'm,
find,
I'm intrigued with padel too. I see we're getting
yes,
some padel courts coming to WeHo and Wedgwood, Houston area this summer, and that looks like a lot of fun.
I know I saw that. It seems like a little like social club too. I've actually personally never tried it, but that sport looks really cool as well. It'll be interesting. I was shocked to see because I know it's that type of clubs only in a few major cities. So I was like, oh wow, I was shocked to see that we were getting one in Nashville.
How about it? We're a city on the move. Yeah, there's 300 pickleball,
Definitely.
excuse me, 300 padel courts in the country, and so now we're getting a few. And you know, I don't want. I mean, I don't mind talking about the courts at Westmead, but on our 3 acres, we do have sort of a larger plan, and potentially, there's room for a padel court. I think the community would love that.
Yeah, no, that's great. And where do you think, I mean, obviously this sport is growing so quickly. Do you think that there needs to be a way to kind of keep up with the demand in terms of creating more courts like you are yourself?
I definitely do. I mean, I'm proud of the friends that are part of what we're building at Westmead, in that we've done it ourselves. And I know, I mean, I think a city that I think our Metro Nashville should support pickleball. And I know there's a lot of franchise uh, groups nationally that would like to set up a presence, and that's all great. And I'm excited for the sort of continued local growth of pickleball as well, um, as we start to see um, some different locations in town growing.
I know, like it's great to see what they did out, in Maryland Farms. It's an area a little bit outside of Nashville that used to be, like kind of like a YMCA, and then they transformed a lot of their tennis courts into pickleball courts. But it's interesting because so many franchises are trying to come to Nashville. I've been in contact with one of them. They finally, set a location, their first one, but it just seems like people, they're wanting to expand the pickleball scene in Nashville, but it seems to be a little bit hard to get the property, or, the rent is crazy right now. So I think people are kind of struggling to find those locations.
Yeah, we feel very fortunate that we have the location that we do, and I think people's time is valuable. So if people want to go play pickleball, they want to be able to come to an open play. Ours is always pro managed and limited. We have 6 courts, so we have 24 spots. And so we always cap it at 24, which is helpful. And so, we do charge a nominal fee for that, but anyone who comes to our courts know that it's going to be pro managed. There's going to be a spot reserved for them, and then we break down the open play to 3-5 and below, or 3-5 and above. And so I think that helps to for people to be able to maximize their pickleball play during a 2-hour time frame, and to drive 5 or 10 minutes is ideal. And so I think we're starting to see some infill of pickleball options around Metro Nashville, and just hope that the city of Nashville can continue to cultivate pickleball opportunities for us to play.
Yes, no, definitely. And Dan, which industry were you in prior to this whole project? And are you still doing that other job, or have you kind of committed to this full time?
Yeah, I'm up to my neck as far as the courts at Westmead, which has been great. It hadn't felt like work yet, but I feel like it's longer hours than so my prior career is still my current career. It
Okay.
was more employee benefits. Now it's more insurance. So I help folk, particularly my main focus. I do some life and disability, but a lot of focus is transition to Medicare, which is and that would be a whole nother podcast, but it's a very complicated process to go from to be age 64 and to transition to Medicare. So that is still something that I help people with, and love that as well. But I'm able to do both. On the pickleball front, well, not had to, I've gotten to learn social media, digital media, reservation platforms. We have Court Reserve. I had to figure out which reservation platform we use, and Court Reserve has been fantastic. I'm a bit of a landscaper, a weatherman, a pickleball pro. So the tasks never end, but it has not felt like work in the last 6 months.
And I just think it's so remarkable what you have been able to do, and kind of wearing all those hats, learning all these different skills that are so challenging. What would you say has been the biggest challenge throughout this process?
Well, today I was getting a green screen to show off my court, so since I failed at that. Now, digital media is, I'm kind of a Luddite, I'm kind of a non-technology type person, but I have someone who helps me every week. We have a check-in session for social digital media, and she's helped me. So growing our digital footprint is an important part of our growth, just to let people know, not just in a very professional manner. So that's been sort of a new task for me, for sure. The time on the court I feel comfortable with. I mean, I've been on a court for 50 years, so that, and want continue to learn my pickleball training and teaching expertise. The courts are around the corner. I live about a half a mile from the court, so convenience is key. If I lived even 5 or 10, even 10 minutes away, because I'm over there. We actually had an open play this morning. I'm over there all the time, even when it rains. I'll go over there to make sure, because if I can keep the water table low on my 6 courts, then the longevity of those courts is, they last, hopefully will last 5 years instead of 2 or 3 years. So there's a lot of tasks. I forgot to winterize the pipes, and so we had a busted toilet in our restroom. So a lot of handyman stuff that I'm failing miserably at, but getting better at.
But you're learning and you're doing it, which is awesome.
Yes.
So how many, I mean, you do a lot there, obviously. Thank God you live so close. How many hours would you say you spend at these courts per week?
A lot.
A second home to you?
It is a second. Yeah, my wife has been very gracious with me, but yeah, it's north of 60. Yeah, yeah,
Wow.
probably,
Wow.
yeah. And Emily, our new pro, has been a huge help to be able to to walk away sometimes and know that she has the expertise to run our different open plays and clinics as well. And and booking a court, I got if I more and more we're seeing people. Our reservation platform allows people with a few clicks to go book a
Okay.
court. It's $35 for 2 hours. If there are 3 pickleball besties are in the system, they can just send a quick link to them. So we're seeing people more and more book the court. Our courts are lit, so are lit in more way than one. So you can you can from 8 to 8 are hours.
Awesome. And where do you see, obviously, you've done so much literally just since October, the few months it's been open. What are some future plans for you? What would you like to do with this community and these courts?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, the weather is a factor. So we have the space where hopefully, if the community can support us, we'd love to see an indoor option. Unlike tennis, where I guess the roof has to be 60 feet. I think regulation size you can get by with 30 feet. If you build a house in Metro Nashville, it can go up to 45 feet. So to have a roof going 30, 35 feet is not an ominous structure. And you've seen the courts. We've got these other 2 tennis courts that we're looking at repairing the asphalt, which has a price tag to it, but I think it's manageable. And, in time, we'd love to see a covered option so that we can have year-round rain in and rain out pickleball.
That's awesome because you guys are on 3 acres, right? So there's probably room to expand. I don't know what other facilities. There's a swimming facility too, right? Over there.
Correct. Yeah. So they're our neighbors, and they just redid their swim club. They have a waiting list. We're in continual communication with them. They actually they'll they finish the junior swim practice like at 10:30 in the summer, and so we're looking at maybe having right now a lot of our events are 21 and up, but I think we'll have some junior event options starting in the summer when school's out. So
Yeah. And I'd love to see more people do what you're doing. If someone has access to courts or a space, what advice would you give to them having gone through something like this?
yeah, certainly send an email to info@wmcourts.com. I mean, I guess I've paid the dumb tax more than once since July, and I have learned some things, and it's perseverance and make sure it's sort of in your passion. I think the fact that I love racket sports. I mean, you can tell like growing up, I wasn't really that effective on the basketball court or football court. Racket sports are something I've just always enjoyed. So the passion with the perseverance, I guess.
And I think the cool thing about pickleball is like so many people, kind of like myself, for instance, you go into like the more corporate world and then, which obviously I'm still in, but then, you find this passion and you're like, I'm like, yeah, I'd love to go play a pro tournament or do something else with it. And kind of like yourself, it's like, who would have thought? I mean, you probably would have never thought at your age, switch, what you're doing and kind of go over to pickleball. So is it kind of cool to see, new opportunities pop up and ones that you probably thought would never come into your life, right?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's life has ebbs and flows, right? I mean, I don't know. I kind of feel like I spent my 20s figuring out what I wanted to do, and raised a family. And my daughter was a great tennis player, and we probably spent 5,000 hours on the court She actually made it to the state finals her junior year of high school. Now the kiddos are all, they're not kiddos anymore, young adults paying taxes and working. So I had a little bit of flexibility there from a timing standpoint. And I love the insurance business and the clients I have there. But there was a little bit of space for me and getting to know people in the community. I mean, I tend to be kind of off, I tend to be in my own silo, but it's been fun to get to know people in the community as well.
And you said too, people, you can reserve the courts. You also have open play, but you can also host corporate events, right?
You mentioned that. Yes, that's kind of been a unknown boost for us. So we actually have a large web-based business company in San Francisco. They have 60 people coming to the Bobby Hotel in 2 weeks, and they have buses transporting them out to the courts at Westmead, and we're going to run a two-division tournament for them, and we're actually going to we're going to help with some of the catering. So events more and more. We have some birthday parties coming up. We have a school fundraiser coming up, a wedding party coming up. So yes, if anyone would like to reserve the courts at Westmead with our fire pit, with our pavilion, it's becoming more and more popular as we get into warmer weather. So that's private events are certainly an option. So Leslie runs point on that because she's an attorney and has sort of knows the contracts and stuff. And but special events at Westmead are definitely becoming more popular, which is great.
And yeah, which is great. And we'll, obviously post the transformation photos on social media, but you'll be able to see like the pavilion with like the, picnic tables. That's why I was like, oh my gosh, I need to do like, it'd be fun to do a round robin breakfast thing with like all my friends there. So it's just so amazing to see, what you are doing with the area, the facility, and just, I think growing the sport in general, like, having this place, having this resource for people here in Nashville and beyond, and all the tourists we get too. It's great to see that you're also seeing them come and use your courts.
It has been, yeah, for sure. We had a mom of one of the Predator players at our courts a few weeks ago from Canada, and she loved it. She's like, "I'm coming back. Next time I come back to see my son play, I'm coming back." It's fun to see.
I know. And that's the cool thing too about like, at least in our community, a lot of the professional sports teams like the Nashville Sounds, they've started putting in courts. I know Bridgestone with Preds games, they've given out free paddles. So I feel like a lot of our local sports teams and stuff are, really supporting the growth of this sport, which is so fun to see.
For sure. Completely agree. Yeah.
Well, Dan, it is so great to see what you're doing for the community. Thank you so much for sharing, how you did it, giving this advice to others. Thank you for joining us, and stay tuned to see who will join us in the kitchen next time.